Well, if there's no money to support the victims of abuse or survivors of abuse, there's plenty of money to prosecute the war in Ukraine. And I have to say today, in a little short update, it is truly incredible, the propaganda and spin coming out of Western media. BBC here is almost beside itself because the reality on the front is not good for Ukraine. I'll be coming on to that. But here's the BBC front page from earlier this morning, meeting the Ukrainian recruits preparing for new battle. This is a tragic article because, of course, these are older men. They're getting a couple of weeks training. They're going to be sent to the front up against seasoned Russian troops, and they're going to pay the price. But what else is the BBC trying to tell us? Well, that the war is going well, but it's not. Let's have a look at this video. I've tried to share out UK coverage, UK column coverage of alternative media sources. This is HistoryLegends, but this was a particularly good report, and I encourage people to go and see the full video on YouTube. Let's listen to what he has to say.
My friends, nobody in history managed to break through the industrial area of the Donbas head on. That was until this summer. That was the situation in my last video 1 month ago, right after the Russian breakthrough near Prores along the railway line. And this is the situation now. The only word I can think of to describe all this is a debacle. The worst is that many of these villages were captured intact. The Russians advanced 7 kilometers in this direction, 10 kilometers to the south. Put simply, all the Ukrainian defensive lines are getting rolled over one after the other. By-step analysis of the situation on the Pokrovsk front. On the 29th of August, pro-Ukrainian Telegram channel Deep State UA wrote, "For a long time, the situation in Donbas was quite appropriately characterized as difficult, but controlled. However, now it is out of control. Currently, it seems that our front in Donbas has collapsed."
Out of control, Ukrainian defences collapsing. Of course, none of this appearing on the BBC or indeed the Ministry of Defence. If we have a look at the Twitter, the latest Twitter report from the UK Ministry of Defence, it's saying that the Russian ground forces have accelerated their advance. It's talking about the Pokrovsk front itself, but of course they're advancing in many other places, but this is not mentioned, and they try and squash this by saying the operational tempo on other front lines has remained low. So let's have a look at the sorts of propaganda videos that the UK Ministry of Defence is putting out. Let's have a listen to this one.
We believe in you. You are our hope. We are fighting to survive. Just we don't have any other choice. If we won't fight, we won't live like as a nation, as a country. We will disappear.
And of course, by fighting the West proxy war, Ukraine is being destroyed. But what does UK propaganda say? That Ukraine is being rebuilt as it is being destroyed. Let's look at this second clip. So for those of you listening in, as Ukraine is destroyed, according to the British Ministry of Defence, no worries, it's being rebuilt, and they're giving the figures and the value of the rebuilding going on, the length of the roads. This is complete nonsense and madness. But what's more tragic is the fact that we're still training troops, minimum training, sending them back to die on the front line. So this is another little video from UK about our brave efforts training Ukrainians.
Take care. Down. You are really good. You're a great man yourself. Yes. Okay. And you hope because you're more ancient.
Well, I can believe that both those men are actually good men, but of course they're being used by the state. This is a proxy war, and certainly those Ukrainians are almost certainly being sent back to die because they're going to be fighting that Russian advance against highly seasoned troops. But the propaganda gets worse from UK because in this next film clip, apparently the Russians haven't got enough water now. We were told they didn't have enough shells and missiles. That was over a year ago. And of course, we've seen the Russian attacks increase, but now we've got this little effort from the Ministry of Defence, which would have us believe that Russian pilots are short of water. So this is just sheer nonsense, but the reality of how much we've sent to Ukraine, if we just pop this one on screen, this is an excellent article. We'll make sure the details are available so that you can actually visit the site and read from the Defence Journal. But the list of weapons systems, financial aid, other aid, billions and billions of pounds being poured into Ukraine, which is being destroyed as a result of the West's effort to create a proxy war with Russia. And then we get this sort of nonsense that, of course, wonder weapons such as the Challenger and the Abrams tank were going to solve the problem for Ukraine. Of course, that hasn't happened. Then it was to be the F-16, but the first F-16 the Ukrainians have been flying has crashed, which has been an utter disaster. Now, this is extremely poignant footage because the Ministry of Defence here in UK talking about these ladies acting as translators, but there seems to be more to this story. Let's have a look at the first clip.
Basically, it was more decision of our parents because they wanted us to be on a safe place. And we start looking for a place where we can go, and we decided it's going to be UK.
Then we arrived to Manchester International Airport, and I saw many people just walking around. They had different clothes, smiling. They were absolutely smiling. And the smell, well, the sounds, they were quite different for me. That was the smell and sound of another culture, another page of my life. So I really like it from the very beginning.
And we found volunteers, so she helped us to find a host family. And also I asked her, is it possible to find any job in UK? And she said, yeah, if you speak English, you can go on military base and become military interpreter. It's like, oh wow, I want to do this. So then I just arrived to UK, I applied for this job, and a month later, or maybe less, I've already moved to my first camp. That was the start, and even being in UK, this is the way how I can help Ukraine. And to be honest, I didn't look for other job. I was only waiting for information where and when I need to be.
Можете повертатись на точку відпочивати.
Дякую.
Can they take body armors?
Yeah.
Да, все можна знімати, відпочивайте.
So what's the reality? The parents helped them leave Ukraine for their own safety, leaving the rest of the Ukrainian population to fight. What would have happened if our young women had done this in Britain in 1939-40? But of course, the British state wants these people because they are pawns in the proxy game. So there is much more to discuss. But we can see, sorry, if we just pop this one up on screen, we can see here the UK government facilitating things for people if they want to come to UK from Ukraine. So it's no wonder that this situation has gone on. Meanwhile, in the background, we've got local MP, in this case, Luke Pollard, who's getting very excited because he's working with the International Drone Coalition to produce hundreds and thousands of drones for the Ukrainians to use against the Russians. And really, if I have to sum this segment up, it's tragedy for Ukraine. It's tragedy for the Russians being killed in this proxy war. But actually, it's the UK as a nation which is under attack by the flag draped round the shoulders of that young man, which of course is a corrupted national flag for UK.